first step is we're gonna have our turkey here. I've gone ahead and got, this is just a small turkey. This is for our practice turkey. We're gonna work for this purpose. Just a regular butterball turkey picked up. I've gone ahead and unpacked it, removed the giblets. Now the giblets, the neck, and the innards, I'm gonna put them in a pot, and I'm gonna use them to make part of the turkey stock. So liver, the heart, the gizzard, neck, it all goes in there. That's all good. I'm gonna move that off to the side. Now I'm also gonna do some other things here that'll go in there. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I usually make sure I have either a sharp knife or in this case I like to use a lot of times are my shears. If you don't have these, I highly recommend getting a set. They're a lifesaver in that they are very simple to cut right through the bone or the joints. Just watch your fingers. All right, I'm gonna untuck these legs. And we're gonna go ahead and pat this down. Very careful when you're taking it out of the packaging. If you're one of those people who like to wash off your bird over your sink, be cognizant of the fact that it's going to splash raw bird juice all over your sink and stuff, and you're going to need to bleach and clean that up. Okay, so the main thing that we want to do today is we're going to demonstrate is spatchcocking a chicken or turkey. So what that involves doing essentially is we're going to remove the spine, and allows us to butterfly open the turkey. And so the reason that we're going to do that is it's going to allow us, especially when we get to a much larger bird. When I go do my Thanksgiving bird and I'm going to do a 20+ pound bird, if I have it all trussed up and everything like this meat, the breast, we're trying to get it to about 165 degrees. Meanwhile, the thigh meat down over here, tucked in here, we're trying to hit about 175 degrees. It's a little bit tougher when it's all together like this to keep this moist, not get this to the right temperature, not dry out the wings, not dry out the drumsticks. Everything's a pain. It's different size, different shape, all those different things. Allowing us to butterfly it is going to allow it to cook quicker and cook more evenly, especially when we're doing when we're going to smoke it like we are here, because you're basically cooking at a slow temperature. If you cook the bird over too long of a period of time, you actually end up incubating the bacteria that naturally is on the meat and stuff rather than cooking it through. And that's usually not a good idea. The other thing that's not a good idea, I know people start to ask me, but if you cut it open, how can you stuff it with stuffing? Well, you should never do that. Putting stuffing, bread and stuff inside of a raw bird and then cooking it in all those raw poultry juices and then afterwards eating it, that's just a bad idea, and asking to have to play musical chairs in the toilet. So anyways, those are a lot of different reasons what we're going to do. We're going to cook evenly, cook it quicker, and it's going to be super juicy and everything. So we want to remove the spine. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually is this little piece of skin that they had here tucked up. I'm going to go ahead and cut that so that way I can get in here. I don't need this tail, butt, whatever you want to call it. That can go into the giblet thing. All right. And so now I can see where my spine is, and I'm just going to cut down the side of the spine. Now, if you didn't have a set of shears, you could do this with a large kitchen knife as well, working your way slowly. Just be very careful in doing so. All right, so I got myself started. I'm just gonna flip it over here and just continue. Hearing that? You can get, if you're not, depending on how careful you are, you might get some of the hip bone or whatever. You can still cut through that. Where it'll become really difficult is if you get too close to the spine. Cutting through the ribs are super easy. Again, watch where your fingers are when you get towards the end there. Okay, I'm gonna grab my knife here and we're just gonna cut the skin. All right. So I've got my first bit done. Now we're going to cut out the rest of the spine. The spring is worn out on my shears, so I'm having to manually open the shears after each cut. That's what's taking so darn long. It's time to buy a new set of shears. All right, so we have the spine removed. Again, now this can just go into my giblet pot. Break it in half. All right. So now I can just clean out, take my knife, I can clean out some of this extra lung tissue that didn't clean out all that well. And I'm gonna grab some more paper towel. And pat out this, clean, just kind of damp. All right. This bird is a lot fattier than the ones I'm used to doing normally, because this is just a store-bought bird. Normally I get the free-range ones and stuff that they're not as fatty. I'm going to remove some of this. But for my pre-Thanksgiving turkey, this is going to do just well. All right, so then we're just going to kind of press down it a little bit, pop those joints. All right, now I got all this extra skin here from where they removed that. This is all garbage. Don't need any of that. All right. So our turkey is now butterflied. Now it's time to season. The bird actually needs a little bit more. Mop it down just a little bit more, remove some more of this moisture. All right. So anyway, so this is essentially very similar to how you'll end up cooking it, is in this fashion. Maybe you'll tuck the wings back underneath it and stuff. What I like to do is I'm going to cook it skin on. Even though in my household we typically will remove the skin when we go to eat it, at least on the breast meat. So what I like to do is start to taking this the flat part where they had opened it up into the body cavity, and just sort of slowly work my finger underneath the skin to separate the skin from the meat underneath it. Until you get your hand in there. I don't want to remove the skin. I'm just separating it. I'm going to leave the skin on for the cooking process. But what I want to do is I want to be able to get in here, and I want to be able to put my seasoning, maybe some butter. If I want to inject if I'm going to inject the bird, I'd inject it in here into as well. But this is just going to allow me to have the seasoning get onto the meat, which is what the people are going to eat, and not be on the outside skin that ultimately we're probably not going to eat. All right. So hands are in there free. Okay. Now, of course, your hands are guppy. That's why I always wear gloves. So now you gotta grab your seasoning. But Rob, you're gonna get stuff over a container. That's why I like to take a plastic bag, rubber band it to the outside of my container. It then allows you to have something you can grab onto, and when you're done, you can just pull that off and throw that away, and now you're free and clear. All right, so we're just gonna take and put some of the seasoning down in here. And then we're gonna, again, reach in there and work it, seasoning down. So that way the meat gets a nice coating. And you can just look in there and see. And what's gonna be really nice is now when it cooks like that, that seasoning's on the meat, it's getting to the flavor because the skin is seasoning the outside of the skin is gonna do nothing unless you're gonna eat the skin, because ultimately it's a barrier. It's gonna prevent the meat from soaking in. This is gonna allow the seasoning to get on the meat. It's gonna help keep the juices in there and really help it to penetrate in there nicely. So let's put a little bit more of this. I don't want to put too much of this, just because this particular seasoning does have black pepper, and as well as garlic and herbs and other such stuff. And I don't want to put too much black pepper on it because not everybody likes that. All right. So that's that. Now, on the inside here, we can do the same thing with the turkey thigh. We can kind of reach in there and we can start to kind of separate that a little bit. So that way we can put some seasoning down in there. Again, work that back into that turkey thigh. I know you guys can make all the comments you want about how perturbing it is watching me rub the meat and all this other stuff, and that's fine and dandy. If you don't love your food, no one else is going to. All right, let's separate this side out again. Same thing. Let's work underneath the thigh, hit the skin a little bit. You want to be careful. Go slow if you don't know what you're doing. When you're doing this, when you're working that, separating that skin from the meat, because you don't want to really tear the skin. I want to keep the skin intact, so that way it does act as a nice moisture barrier to still keep the moisture in the meat when I'm cooking it. I just want to be able to get in there to put some of the seasoning underneath it and spread that around. So, it's a delicate process. I've done it enough times now, it's relatively quick. All right, and I'm going to just put some on the inside of the meat here. And then the drumsticks, now those we're going to eat probably with the skin on. We'll go ahead and season those. I'm not going to try to reach down and separate that. That's kind of difficult. All right. So, our turkey is spatchcock, it's seasoned, and it's going to be ready for the next step, which is to get it on. All right, so depending upon what you have at your disposal is going to determine what kind of cooker you're going to use for these. I normally, for Thanksgiving, I'm going to use my big smokers. Not everybody has those, so we're going to cook this bird here based on what most people are going to have available to them. Either one of two things. One is you're going to use your gas grill, and two is you might have a pellet smoker. So first, let's talk about the gas grill. In the gas grill configuration, we're going to cook on what's called an indirect cooking method. Means I'm going to probably have just one burner going, and I'm going to put the turkey off to the side. And this is, again, comes in well where we have the spatchcock, and cook it without the heat directly at it. Now, you're going to want to probably add some smoke flavor to it. This particular grill happens to have a built-in smoker box that I can load up with some pecan chips, because I'm going to use pecan to season my wood. I would just sprinkle the pecan chips in there, drop it in, good to go. Now, if you don't have one of these, you can buy a smoker box that just sits on top of your grill. You can take some aluminum foil, spread it out, put some chips on it, close it up, punch a couple holes in it, so that way the smoke can get out, and just put it on there too. You don't have to go spend money. So that's the way you would do it on a gas grill. You'd run one burner, probably on medium or so, watching your temperature so that your cook temperature is roughly going to read about 250 to 300 degrees in that smoking range that's listed on your grill. Alternatively, you might do what we're going to do today. You might have access to a pellet smoker. So in this case, we're going to use this. This is my Camp Chef pellet smoker. We've got the hopper loaded up with pecan pellets, and we're going to go ahead. It's just heating up the temperature right now, and when it's time, we're just going to go ahead and slap that turkey right down on there. Okay, so we had our turkey seasoned. We got our cooker's ready, and before we throw it on, I want to go ahead and inject this bird to get some additional moisture in there. In this case, I'm going to use just some chicken stock. That'll work fine. For my game day Thanksgiving turkey, I'm actually going to take this carcass and make turkey stock to inject in. So you can see the meat injector. This is an open thing. I'm just going to go ahead and use this. Means I'm not going to use, after I use this in here and reinsert, I'm going to throw anything in here left away. Do not take your contaminated, etc., okay? So, if I get some. And so what I'm doing, as you push it in there, you're just kind of moving the needle around a little bit, gently putting a little bit of fluid around the bird. You'll start to see it start to plump up some. Slowly remove the needle, put your thumb over the hole to hold it for a second to allow it to get in there, otherwise it's all going to shoot out. It is always interesting to watch. You can physically see the meat plump up as you inject that fluid in there. Okay. Like to get a little bit in the thighs, the drumstick. All right. That should be good. Now we'll go ahead and we'll put it on the cooker. All right, so we're going to throw our turkey on here. I got my smokers up to temperature. I got it set to 240 degrees. Grabbing my turkey. Oops. I'm going to have juice go. And I'm going to put my turkey on. Now, you can orient it however you want. I'm actually going to turn this around now. And the reason I want to do this is because I'm going to stick my probes in here. Now, what I'm using the meter probe. You can use any brand probe. It doesn't really matter to monitor your cook temperature. The thing I like about these is they're completely wireless. They have an internal battery that's charged. They communicate via Bluetooth to the base station, and then the base station connects to my Wi-Fi. So I don't have to be in Bluetooth range to be able to monitor on my phone. In fact, I could go to the store or to the barber or whatever and still monitor my temperature. So I've got one in each breast, and I'm going to go ahead and close the lid. And next thing we should be doing is opening this up when it's time to cut it up. So our temperature probes have gone off. Our turkey's at temp. So now it's time to remove it from the smoker. What we're going to do is we'll take it off, take it on a tray, and we're going to take it inside, and we're going to let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes before we start to cut into it. So our turkey is here, and I have my tool. Aha! Voila, un turkey. Okay, so we have our turkey here, and it's time to go ahead and carve this up to serve. So I'm going to start with my boning knife. That's the important one here, and I'm going to go ahead and start. I usually start at the outside and work myself in. So I'm going to just find that spot where that drumstick is. And it's just going to cut right off. I'm going to set that off to the side. Same thing on this other one here. Then we're going to go ahead and cut our thighs. Now our thighs, the nice thing about splaying it like this, we kind of see where that is. Very simple. Kind of come in there and just separate that out. All right, last but not least, we're going to remove our wings. Well, not last, but next. And it's really just about using your knife to find and follow the meat, the muscle, right to our joint. Since you can come in there. And cut it out. All right, so now we have our breast left. Okay, I want to go ahead and remove it from the carcass whole. And what I'm going to do first is, I should go ahead and leave that on. I'm just going to come down my center spot. Okay. That bone, that collarbone there was kind of fighting me. There we are. Now, still got a little bit of scrap meat there, but that's fine. For the most part now we have this. Like I said, my family, we don't like the skin on the breast, so I'm going to go ahead and carefully try to remove that there. This one, actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. Let them take it off in pieces. It's sticking a little bit because I did not butter it. Our turkey breast, we want to cut it so in slices this way. You don't want to slice it this way. That's how the grain of the breast goes, the meat goes, and that's just going to make a mess. So we want to cut it across the grain. I like to try to leave it so that way, cut it nice like this while the breast is whole. So that way now, when I grab my platter and I want to plate it, I can take my knife, slide it underneath here. There we go. We can plate it whole. That's very good. All right, let's grab our next one. Yep. And again, we can now just take this off the carcass off the side there. Take this. This one's going to come off a little bit better. So I'll go ahead and remove this one first so people can have their choice. Somebody wants it skin on, they can have it. Somebody wants it skin off, they can't. As you can see now, for the one, as we take this off here, so we got our seasoning was there on the meat, and we can take the underside of the skin where some of it came off there, we can kind of rub that back on and rub that in there. So that's good, and we can get rid of that skin. And again, here we can see the grain of the meat is going this way, right? So I'm gonna wanna cut this one this, so it's going across that grain. Bring our platter back over here. There we go. Now we can take it, we can plate a couple drumsticks on there. Now last bit, we gotta do our thigh meat. All right, so let's move that out of the way. For this, we're definitely gonna remove the skin. You can see this, the pinkish, the darker pink here from the smoke color stuff they got in there, which is great. We're gonna pop this out of the hip bone. You see that nice smoke flavor, that smoke coloring that you're gonna get on that meat. Now I mentioned earlier that with the thigh meat, you were targeting a temperature of 175 degrees versus the breast meat, which you were targeting 165. And this has nothing to do with a food safety aspect on the thigh meat as it does with a texture aspect. If you only get your thigh meat to 165, it's gonna, to some people aren't gonna care for it. And that doesn't mean it's bad, but it might just end up being a little bit, feel a little more raw, not really raw, but undercooked to them. All right, so our thigh meat, we're just gonna kind of put some slices and cut it, chunk it up. That's kind of usually what I do with mine. I'm just grab it and I can plate it just like that. There's a pile of dark meat here. We can go ahead and make sure we didn't get anything out of the hip bone. We get all that. This was our joint, bunch of cartilage. We still have some. Good enough. All right. So there, next one. Now, if you were a person who wanted to eat the skin, it's the nice thing is we did this like this slow and slow like this. Is it the skin's nice and crispy, so it is not going to be like a rubbery chew, which is nice. I always like, not only do I like the dark meat the best, I think it's more flavorful here, but what I do like about this method here of cutting on cutting board, and you see me kind of taking this meat and moving it around. Well, as you do this, obviously you're getting all these juices and seasoning and stuff on the board. So I like to kind of reincorporate that back into that meat that then we're plating. Let's take a little bit more off this thigh bone. Get a couple more bites worth in there. All right, so there we are. We have ourselves our two breasts. They're sliced, but they're plated whole. We have a bunch of dark meat that's ready to go. We have our drumsticks. The only thing that's left is if you had somebody in your house who eats the wings, we can go ahead and cut them too. Now, nobody in my house will take the wings on day one. So I'm not gonna bother to plate them. In my house, they become a second, like a day two thing, or further down the road when you're looking for like a quick snack lunch type thing. But you could cut the meat off the bone if you want to chop it up like we did with the dark meat. You could leave it on the bone like a little drumette, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to leave it off to the side because, like I said, nobody's going to eat it, so I'm just going to serve the plate. So this is how we do our spatchcock turkey. This is how I prefer it. Now, I know it doesn't give you that Norman Rockwell pick that you can take the whole turkey whole to the kitchen table, but I don't know if anybody really does that. Try it out for yourself, whether you want to do it on a turkey for this Thanksgiving, whether you want to do it on a chicken. It's a great way to cook a chicken or a turkey or any poultry for that matter. Get you that nice, juicy meat on a slow cook with crispy skin, which normally if you tried to smoke it, you wouldn't be able to get. And yeah, a nice even cook, way to go. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving, and salute.